Hey everyone, welcome back to Game Informer. I'm Suriel Vasquez. I'm here with Leo Vader.
Hello.
This is the Blind Well, as you can see up here. It's a new sort of repeatable activity similar to Escalation Protocol.
But more scale to 3 to 6 players.
Yes. So, Leo, what do you remember of Escalation Protocol?
I remember people being mad about the lack of matchmaking.
Yes. So there's that, and there's sort of the way that it kind of intruded on the space a little bit, where if you wanted to do a public event, it would kind of prevent you from doing that until the Escalation Protocol was over, and people would just randomly activate it, trying to get people to play, and it was kind of it was a little bit of pain. People were trying to figure out these really weird, obscure methods to matchmake and stuff.
Sure.
So the Blind Well is sort of a reaction to that a little bit. The Blind Well takes place in a distinct area versus just somewhere in the world. So you come here to this part of the Dreaming City specifically to do the Blind Well. And so it is, like you said, balanced for 3 to 6 players. They did say that they are going to offer a little bit of an easier way to get multiple groups together. What that is, they haven't said. But just to get down into what the Blind Well is, so as you can see here, we're inside this little bubble, and we're just kind of fending off waves. And you can see sort of that meter there at the top left of the screen that says light deposited. So basically, all of these guys are dropping little bits of light that we need to advance to the next bubble.
And you can dip outside of the bubble. It does damage to you over time, but you can sneak out to get some guys on the outskirts. It's very strategic in when you choose to do that.
So if you see that little buff there that says Touch of the Sky, when you venture outside the bubble, you'll see it start counting down, and that'll let you know how much time you have left until you'll start taking damage.
Right.
So we're trying to sort of power this sort of mysterious awoken machine. And so the way you activate this activity in the first place is as you're sort of exploring the Dreaming City and doing public events and finding ascended chests and things like that, you'll get these tokens. And so you can cash in these tokens to complete sort of these events. And there will be different tiers of tokens. So as you can see here, we're doing a tier 1 version of the activity, and there are 3 tiers to this activity. And so obviously those are catered to different light levels. So the higher you get in light, the higher of the tier you're going to want to do. There's different bosses depending on what tier you do. There's Blind Well specific loot, and you'll get better loot if you do higher tiers, things like that. And so once you move out of the first bubble, things get a little more complicated here. So basically, you do want to stay in your bubble most of the time, but you are going to want to venture out of it if you see these little balls of light drop, which we'll see in a sec here.
And those drop from yellow enemies?
Yes.
The tougher ones?
Anything with a yellow bar usually. And you can see some of the chieftains here in action, kind of dropping their totems. It kind of just, messing with us. So this invincible enemy here, the Servant of the Plague, later we'll see, in just a sec, we'll see an enemy called an Anathema. Anathema? I don't know how to pronounce that word. I've only seen... It's
one of the biggest
words,
mysteries of the expansion.
That's right. It's one of those words you only really see in writing. No one ever says that. No one ever drops that word in casual conversation.
Sure.
So basically, when you kill the Anathema... when you kill that thing, it'll drop this ball, and you throw that ball at that enemy, at the shielded enemy, and that'll drop their shield, and you can kill them, and then that'll eventually allow you to proceed to the next bubble after a little while. So as you can see, we're trying to fill up the light meter.
The other thing those light orbs you're collecting from the yellow enemies do is charge your super meter. So what happens when you're playing this event is you get your super way faster than you do in standard PvE stuff.
Right.
And it makes it a lot more fun.
It's faster than even in like Mayhem, where supers are just going off constantly. It's basically like a very limited sort of like infinite super, sort of if you remember one of the Warlock's old abilities from Destiny 1. It's sort of like faster than that, where you can just throw out whatever you can during that time.
Yeah, use a super to kill a powerful enemy, pick up the orb, and you're basically back to having your super already.
Right, so as you can see here, it's charging incredibly quickly.
I'm a fan.
Yeah. And so what you see, that's the harmony buff you see on the left there. And so now we've completed that orb, we're moving into the next one. And so it's I think they designed it as sort of a this is sort of the closest mode that Destiny has to a horde mode. And I think they took a lot of the feedback of people just playing Archon's Forge from Destiny 1, just for just running those loops over and over again. And tier 3 activity, the tier 3 version of this event, is basically going to be all like an endgame thing, is what they said. And they want people to just grind these loops over and over. And it's like pretty fun, just the idea of here's a activity that is not like 100% mindless, but just a way to just get you playing Destiny PvE without having to like worry about, you know, the particulars too much.
It's repeatable, but you can mix it up with the different factions and difficulty levels.
Right, and you're sort of trying to get sort of different loot drops. And a lot of it will be pretty strong. It'll be some of the game. It'll be stuff you'll be chasing as you approach 600 light. And like we tried a couple while we were at Bungie. We tried a couple of the tier 3 activities, and they were really tough. So, and they had already leveled us to like 600, you know, automatically. But you can definitely feel like they want to have you do a lot of difficult things, and just sort of do it. And there's
for the higher difficulties, you're definitely gonna want to get a bigger group together.
Right, and especially for they told us that there are heroic versions of all of these tiers. So if you know the secret, a handshake basically, you can figure out how to get an even harder version of this event. And at the end of these events, there's a boss. And so if you trigger the heroic event mid-event, you'll get a much harder boss. Sort of one of the bosses is one of the chieftains who drops their totems like incredibly quickly. Like he has all 3 totem types, and he just throws them out like super quickly. And he was like the toughest thing I saw that we fought there during the Blindwell stuff. And you'll have reasons to run these heroics and stuff. And in terms of like variety, there's every time you do a Blindwell, it'll face you off against a random faction basically. And there are sort of multiple enemy encounters that they've designed within those factions for every tier of difficulty, so it won't just be Scorn that you're fighting all the time, is what we're told.
That is what we're told.
Yeah, so a lot of
Scorns fit really well in this scary atmosphere, though.
Yeah, that's true. Just enemies that like run at you sort of mindlessly and very aggressively, I think fit this game mode really, really well. There will be bounties tied to all of this stuff, so if you want to pick up a bounty and sort of accomplish the task and get a little bonus out of it, you can do those as well. But yeah, I think Escalation Protocol was sort of a good idea based on Archon's Forge that kind of wasn't executed as well as I think it could have. It required a lot of circumventing its design to really reap the benefits.
Sure.
And I think this is sort of a more polished version of that, a little closer to Archon's Forge. But also, if you're trying to figure out how to do the heroic versions, the Ghost will occasionally clue you in to some of this stuff. As like, hey, he might give you a hint if you don't do the heroic version of like, hey, maybe we can try this. So I think they've done a pretty good job of listening to sort of what people had to say about Escalation Protocol and work that into this, which I think this is one of the things I'm looking forward to playing most of. Just here's another PvE activity. If you have like a regular Destiny group that you play with, this is something that you do that sort of offers a meaningful reward sort of outside of the milestones. And I think it was pretty fun. We played it for a while. Leo, what did you think of the Blindwell overall?
I liked it a lot. I thought the way you have to stay inside this safe area and fend off people from the outside, but still dip out when you need to. Right. I thought that was an interesting tweak, and it kept me thinking while I was playing.
Yeah, it's just enough. You feel like you have to do just enough sort of active problem solving that it isn't mindless.
Right, totally.
But it's not so involved that you have to like actively puzzle solve. It's just you see trigger, you activate it, like you see the thing you're supposed to do, and then you do it whenever it presents itself. And I think it's a really good balance of mindless and sort of involved that I'm hopeful to check out when Forsaken comes out.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got a little more gameplay of Tier 1, and then we've got a Tier 2. Yeah. But we're just going to let that play out without commentary. Yeah. So you can see us get eviscerated in Tier 2 there.
All right, so thanks for having me, Leo.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Down.